In today's video, we are going to be previewing Chelsea versus Manchester City on Sunday, the Premier League opener. I hope you guys are all excited for this. I'm absolutely buzzing for the Premier League to be back. Let's take a look at what I think the teams are going to be, how I think each team will set up tactically, and what I think will go on. I firstly just want to really quickly talk about the press conference. Reece James being the only player injured is just amazing to hear. And just the way Maresca spoke throughout this, I loved it. I absolutely love Enzo Maresca. He's the manager I've been calling out for, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out because I thought the press conference was absolutely brilliant. Moving into the team, in goal, we have Robert Sanchez. I do think he's going to get that number one spot, at least for the start of the season. And I think it will take a mistake, a bit like last season when Petrovic came in, for Jorgensen to get his chance. At right back, in the absence of Reece James, of course, we have Malo Gusto. I would have wanted him to start, whether it was the right back or left back anyway, because I just think he's been so good in pre-season. We'll speak about what I think is going to happen with his role during this game, but he's an absolute lock in that right back position. Two central defenders. We saw something come out in The Athletic yesterday about them being the preferred pair, and that's what I love to hear because we've got Wesley Fofana and Levi Colwill as the right and left centre-back. I think they can form a formidable partnership this season. I think if they get the time to develop a very good understanding and relationship as a two, I think they'll be brilliant, especially together, and I think they complement each other very well. And coming in at left-back, we saw his first 45 minutes in the pre-season game against Inter Milan last weekend. It's Cucurella. Again, I think his aggressive nature is going to be brilliant for Maresca this season. I think he's going to really buy into that sort of man-to-man aspect of the team during the press, and I think Maresca's going to love that intensity to win the ball back. In the number 6, we're going for Romeo Lavia. It's harsh that Caicedo misses out, and of course, I think he's going to go straight into this team in the next few weeks as he gets more and more familiar with the team and his fitness increases, basically. But Lavia's just been phenomenal through the whole of pre-season. He's been a lock in there, and he's just been unbelievable. So I think it would be very harsh for him to not start this game. I think he's very ready, and I think he's very well tuned in with the system. To number 8, we have Enzo Fernandez and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Enzo Fernandez, I've put on that left-hand side. Again, we'll speak about why later on in the tactics part of the video, but I've put him on that left-hand side. Again, we did see this the other day with Dewsbury-Hall coming on that right-hand side. This will sort of affect how we play in possession, where Dewsbury-Hall can roam, and again, the pressing nature of the team. But these will be my two number 8s. On the right, we have Cole Palmer. Again, it's very harsh on Madueke to miss out, but I think this is what we're going to see in the way of getting Cole Palmer into the team and how we're going to set up. Again, we'll talk about this tactically on what it will mean for Gusto and Palmer and how that will sort of configure itself, but I do think Palmer starts on the right. On the left, this is a really tough one. I've gone for Raheem Sterling. Of course, I'd actually love to see Mudryk start this game, more so for the out-of-possession things that he brings, and I think against Inter Milan, it was his best game, especially out of possession, but also in possession. But Sterling does tend to show up against Manchester City. So, for that reason, I've put him on the left. And we do also have Neto, who we've been told in the press conference is fit and will be in the squad. So, I'm expecting to see him on the bench, and it would be brilliant to see him come on in the second half, but let's see. And then up front, I've gone for Christopher Nkunku. Bit of a different choice. He did play. The only 45 minutes that he played up front in pre-season was against Manchester City. And of course, we could see Mark Guiu and then Nkunku playing as one of the 8s. But I just do think to get these players into the same team, I think we'll see Nkunku as a striker. And against Manchester City, I think we'll sort of use that to our advantage to almost play in that 4-2-4, which we'll speak about in a bit. Now, if this is the starting lineup, this is the way I'd expect it to be configured with the two build-up shapes. The one on the left being that sort of 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-4, as some call it, with Nkunku as the striker, dropping into more of a 10 role alongside Dewsbury-Hall to receive that ball between the lines with the wingers pinning the fullbacks high and wide. Then, as Chelsea progress their way up the pitch, it would then allow Gusto to overlap, Palmer to come inside and Nkunku to go back into that number 9 position, which again forms that sort of 3-2-4 or 3-2-5 formation. During the pre-season game against Manchester City, we did see Chelsea form this 3-3-4 very often with Enzo dropping in from that left 8 role alongside the double pivot, which had an inverted fullback. However, this was without Cole Palmer, and it was still to spread out that back line with 4v4. We even saw the deep build-up shape forming in this sense, with Enzo dropping even deeper to create that 2-4 or the 3-4 with the goalkeeper involved, again against that 2-4 first two lines of pressure of Manchester City. We'll speak about that in a minute. And something that I've realised Manchester City have been doing a lot in their games at the minute is playing almost that 4 in the front row, but quite passively, letting the back 3 or back 4 hold the ball and then deciding to jump out, with the two central midfielders almost screening all the way back to screen off the number 8s and number 9 for the central defenders. Here's another example of them doing that in the Community Shield game against Manchester United. We're now going to head into a little bit of a live tactical segment, go over to the tactics board and discuss what we could see happen in this game due to these pressing structures and build-up structures. Hello there guys, welcome to the live section of the video. We're just going to have a little check through on the tactics board and speak about how Man City could press, as we just spoke about in the video, with that sort of 4-2-4 sort of setup, or you could see it as a 4-4-2. But as we spoke about with the last few images, we have that front four. So essentially, this is why I'm expecting Chelsea to start with a deep, almost in this 2-4-4 formation, to allow us to create these little, if I can get this up, that sort of 4v4 scenario and attack. Now, the personnel for the City team is a complete guess. I did have this as Rodri and then this as Silva to begin with, and that is Rodri here. But that changed because Rodri is not available now in the press conference. So I have a feeling maybe you see Savio and Doku start together. Maybe instead, maybe Silva starts on the right and they do start with O'Reilly, or they start with Nunes to have two in the midfield that are more natural there rather than Silva, obviously, who's natural there on the ball, but he does work hard off the ball, but physically maybe not as capable. But that's the prediction that I've gone for. And then again, this is sort of the predicted lineup that I've gone for that we spoke about before. Again, this could be very different, but this is what I've sort of predicted. So in this scenario, of course, it's going to be, you sort of have this three here. You have the two fullbacks high, but again, one can drop in to receive, replay, same as this side. And then the two pivot players will usually be in the shadow here. Again, one could drop into here to receive, play back, but largely you'll see them in the shadow, or the cover shadow, what people would call it, of the two strikers, or the two strikers in the press for City. So this comes from, of course, where this pivot's positioned. There's some images that I showed you that had the pivot very deep. I'm going to get rid of these now so that you can see each movement. But as you can say, like the 4-2-4 with the lines, or a 4-4-2, I've sort of just tried to show the shape that they might play in. So it's these two here. If they play deep, again, they're trying to have these two in their shadow and sort of block them between the two centre-backs. But they're also in pressing distance of the pivot players. If that's the case, let's say Haaland presses, okay? Haaland presses the ball. Kukurea is going to drop to obviously opt for an option. Savio might go completely with him. Again, if the option allows itself, then the option would be pop it into Kukurea. Now Enzo's the free man because Haaland's left his cover shadow. So the idea, obviously, if they can do it, is to build up slowly. And then once that ball goes into Kukurea, can you bounce it into here via a third man combination? Now Enzo's facing forward. And this is if Savio's not quite switched on and he's sort of holding off and he's not aggressively pressing on Kukurea. All of a sudden, Enzo's facing forward. Lavia can burst out of here too. You've got a six-man attack, essentially. Gusto can join that. And again, you're basically outnumbering, you're going man for man. So it's not outnumbering them, but you're at least getting a 6v6. Or if Gusto does attack quickly, you can attain a 7v6 in their half the pitch. Now, of course, the other option here is Savio presses it well, blocks that pass off. Enzo can't receive the ball, even though he's now the spare man from Haaland dropping in here. And therefore, of course, that means likelihood is De Bruyne will be pressing, like they're not going to both press together. So you'll recycle, and that's what Sanchez is there to do. Sanchez adds that. Or he can even go all the way over if De Bruyne is not close enough on his man either, okay? So that's what you'll probably see a lot of, is slower, foot on ball. Can we play through? If we can't, because of course that's the other option. If Haaland is pressing and it's a little bit sloppy, that ball can go straight through. Depends on the movement between the two. Can they find a line to play through? But expect it to be slow when it's at the back in that formation, especially, like I say, when it's in this this sort of 3-4 with the fullbacks here. Again, we might not see this, but this is why I expect against City's back with their press, especially because I don't think Gusto's going to take the inverted role, purely because I think Palmer's going to play on the right. So I said we'd speak about it later, so let's touch on it now. I do think that when we push higher up the pitch, we will see Palmer drag into here and Gusto push forward, okay? Now, what this can do, this is going to leave Guardiola himself with an option, because he's either going to think, I need to follow Palmer, in which case Gusto is going to provide the width and he's going to be the free man. If he doesn't follow Palmer and he stays in that shape, Palmer is now essentially the spare. Okay, so if you've moved up in possession, let's say they've moved back, you moved up a bit, and so Lavia in the middle of the park. Now, see, he's trying to mark here. You can have whichever way it goes, KDB maybe coming over here, or again, he's going to be shadowing Lavia, for example. But there's always going to be, when somebody like Palmer makes his move to create this, and it would turn into more of this sort of shape, like we've seen before, that 3-2-4-1 or 3-2-5. In this scenario, you are now causing that outnumbering, okay? So like I said, Palmer becomes a spare man between the lines. Can he drift? Can he pick up the ball? If it comes over here, can he drop in here to receive? Be a spare. Can he drop into this pocket and receive if Doku's dropping off? There's many different options, but Palmer becomes that extra +1, which is, again, what I'm expecting this game of Maresca to want to try and do to get one of his best players on the ball in dangerous areas of the pitch. So I'm expecting that to happen with these two. And that's why largely I've gone for that 4-2 or that 2-4 build-up shape that we spoke about a minute ago with Cucurella and Gusto further back like this. That's largely why I've gone for that, because then I think higher up the pitch it becomes more like that. And that, of course, wouldn't work if you had a Madueke, for example. It'd be more likely that Gusto was inverting and maybe Enzo. They were trying to make Enzo the +1 in the middle of the park. Again, it would be from the left, but that would be sort of what they're trying to do. So against this sort of press, as I said, you're going to try and find Gusto and Palmer. Your main pattern of play, I would say, is going to be, like I say, between these three players. Can you cause a shift where Doku's pushing high, Vardiol follows inside, Gusto finds this space here? Or, as I said, Vardiol doesn't push out with Palmer. Instead, he has to apply it with Gusto. Can Palmer receive it between the lines? That's the things that I'm looking for in this game. And I think these two haven't looked like last season, saying that they're going to be the most important, but I think they will. A few other things to touch on. I think Nkunku starting in the striker, quite a topic that a lot of people don't really know for sure, mainly because I don't think Jackson's fully fit yet. I think we see someone like Jackson, maybe Neto off the bench, Madueke probably off the bench too. So they're the main things to touch on. Apart from that, I think that was the main things I wanted to say about the build-up patterns for Chelsea and the pressing patterns for City. How you're going to try to manoeuvre that ball. Like I say, I think it'll be quite slow around the back. And then at least you've still got shape here as well. Gusto's movements later rather than sooner. Palmer will still have to pin the man in the early build-up phase, because you don't want to lose Gusto, especially because if the ball turns over in transition, his man is Doku, and that is one of the most dangerous men on the pitch, especially in transition. So the timing of when Gusto joins that front four or front five and Palmer can drift inside is just as important as the movement itself, because you're trying to protect yourself in transition from the likes of Jeremy Doku. So let's head back over to the video. We'll film the outro and we'll speak about what could happen with a few predictions. That's the end of the video. Thank you everybody for watching. Please do let me know if you enjoy those live segments with the tactics board, so we can carry on doing them if they are well received. I do enjoy doing them, and I think it adds a little bit more explanation to what we're trying to talk about, using the images and then going over to the tactics board to speak about them. Please let me know your predictions in the comment section. I'm going to go with 1-1 on the day. No Rodri. I'm going to go 1-1. Please let me know yours in the comment section down below. Leave a like. It really does help the channel out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.